All content provided on this podcast is for informational, entertainment, or educational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice of any kind, including but not limited to legal, medical, financial, exercise, or health related. Listeners are encouraged to consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk. By listening to this podcast, you agree that the hosts, guests, producers, and all affiliated parties are not liable for any damages, losses, or injuries resulting from the use or misuse of the information provided. This podcast may occasionally feature discussions on sensitive topics. Listener discretion is advised.
I don't know about you, John, but I'm not the kind of guy that's going to blame the firefighters for starting the fire just because they showed up there when things are going down, right?
Right.
So why's everybody always got to blame cholesterol? Let's talk about it.
Welcome to Faith, Freedom, and Fitness. Introducing your host, John Turk, a former police officer, fitness cover model, and the real-life inspiration behind Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. He is joined by Michael Wayne Foster, a former school teacher, actor, and model who's graced the covers of over 800 romance novels. Get ready for the F3 podcast.
You talk to people about fitness related topics every day, whether it's working out, diet, all the ailments that happen. I do quite often as well, not as much as you, but I got to be honest. One thing that's always been an area that I felt that I needed to learn more about was cholesterol. You hear people talk about good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. I'm on statins. I can't take statins. Statins are doing this.
Right.
And I'm like, I just don't know a whole lot about it. So I thought we could do in today's episode is just really do a deep dive on cholesterol, like the good, the bad, the ugly, and overall how you can treat it. So I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you is, I don't really even know what LDL or HDL means. So can you just sort of let me know?
Dive into it. Sure. So triglycerides in cholesterol, they're two different types of fats, really. So you have cholesterol is made up of LDL and HDL when you look at your blood profile, when you're looking at that. LDL stands for low density lipoprotein and HDL stands for high density lipoprotein. Now you want to think of those two as LDL is the bad one, right? And LDL, what it does is it brings cholesterol to your arteries. HDL is the cleaner. It takes cholesterol away from your arteries. So when you get a blood test and they're looking at your LDL and your HDL, they also look at your, total cholesterol on top of that. And that's where you're getting those numbers from. Now, a good healthy number for your HDL, the good cholesterol, you want it to be like 60 or above, right? And your LDL, you want it somewhere in the neighborhood of like maybe 125, something like that. So your total cholesterol is going to be like 200 or under. You want that LDL really low. Now, LDL is broken down even further into other things like VLDL, which is another part of it and another test. But the tests, when they look at everything, they're looking at basically your lipid profile. And your lipid profile, when they're looking at your blood cholesterol and all that stuff, it's basically cholesterol, triglycerides, and you also have things in your body that cholesterol is really important for. So, for example, when people think of cholesterol, they always think bad, right? Just like I had mentioned my little scenario that, cholesterol isn't the bad guy. It's just like the fire department is there to put the fire out, right? Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, what happens is when people eat too much sugar or they're really inflamed, the cholesterol, the arteries get damaged because blood pressure rises, they expand, contract, and before you know it, they get little microscopic tears in them. And what happens is the cholesterol is kind of like the spackle. So the cholesterol goes in and seals off those cuts in your arteries. And then each time you have more and more higher blood pressure, more and more splits happen, more and more cholesterol and spackling is put on there. And before you know it, the artery starts to close off. And so that's the main problem with cholesterol. It's not the cholesterol itself, it's the inflammation. And what causes all that inflammation is sugar. And the bad thing about sugar is sugar raises your triglycerides, which is different from your cholesterol. Now, triglycerides are what you would think of that you get when you have a bad diet, right? You let's say you eat too much. When I say bad diet, I don't mean fat. I mean sugar. So your triglycerides, when they're taken in by the body has to secrete insulin to get rid of that sugar. not the triglyceride, so to speak, like I just said. It's sugar. So insulin's secreted, and then insulin takes it to the liver, and anything that's left over, it's going to take that extra glucose that insulin didn't do anything with, and the liver is going to convert it into fat. And sugar is the biggest reason why people get what's called non-alcoholic fatty liver. And that's because we eat too much sugar. And the biggest culprit causing that in a lot of people these days is high fructose corn syrup. What they did is they modified the fructose molecule and made it even more sweeter and more like sugary, so to speak, in layman's terms.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it hits the liver, it's like a massive dump of this stuff. And your liver says, gosh, I got to get rid of this. And it starts storing everything in the liver. And the liver starts to grow and gets fatty. And before you know it, it starts to get scarred. It doesn't function properly. And wham, you have non-alcoholic fatty liver.
So can I jump in real quick on that one? I just wanted to tell you that it's funny you said that, because I remember, and I think we mentioned this on another podcast, I remember watching that documentary, A Super Size Me with Morgan Spurlock. Yeah. And I didn't know any of this, John. And I remember at the end of it, he's pounding, he's got to have, every meal he's having giant Coke, supersized, the whole shebang.
Right.
And they said that he had onset, like fatty liver was happening. And he's like, but I don't drink. And that's what I was thinking. I'm like, he doesn't drink. Isn't that what comes from alcohol? Right. Yeah, and that's when I first heard that. And you're absolutely correct. That's what happened with that McDonald's diet that he did.
Yeah. So think of like lipids, right? Lipids are, I'll do it in an analogy for like cars, if you can think of cars, right? So your lipids, that's all the cars, right? That's all your fats. Your triglycerides are a type of carb. And that's what you get from your diet. Triglycerides go in there from sugar and it converts and all that other stuff. Your LDL and your HDL are the delivery systems transporting that cholesterol. So that's kind of how you explain it in layman's terms to understand the whole lipid and cholesterol and triglyceride system. It is kind of confusing because somebody will say your triglycerides are off, your lipids are high, or they're all, your LDL is bad, or your LDL is good, your HDL is bad, your HDL is good. People are just confused by it. It is confusing. But the main thing you got to think of when you look at these tests, what matters more than anything is there's a test that you get, and it's called ApoB. I believe it's ApoB. And what it is they take your cholesterol and they check how many particles of LDL, which is the bad one, that you have. Now, you could have low LDL cholesterol, which is low density lipoprotein, but your ApoB could be high, which means you have a lot of particles of LDL, which is bad. And then they have a test to measure the size of it. Now, smaller particles is what you want, but some people not only have a high ApoB, which means they got a lot of particles, and they also have bigger, fluffier ones. That's the person who's really got to be concerned. And there's tests for that. So they can look at that. That's more important than your actual whole triglyceride LDL profile, is knowing what that ApoB is. And it's something that you can have your doctor do. You can just go get a blood panel and they'll check it. And it's just, it's something that's, I think, really super important for people to get done if they're worried, because it's a silent one that could be elevated when all your numbers look right. So it's called ApoB, and it's basically LDL particle size is what it is. So
okay.
It's a really important test. And I just think that lipid tests are important because, number one, I don't like statins. And the reason I don't like statins is because I think we need cholesterol. People don't realize when you look at lipids, okay, when you're looking at, low density lipoproteins and all these things, lipids are so important in the body. Number one, lipids encase your neurons. They're the fat that transfers all the signals in your body. So you have something called your dendrites, and then the dendrites secrete a chemical called acetylcholine, and it goes from one neuron to the other. And how fast that signal travels depends on how much you have in fat around your neuron. And if you don't have enough fat, which is made through cholesterol, the lipids, you're not going to transfer your signals. And what happens is over time, those things, the fat wears off. And that's how people get Alzheimer's over time. And there's now a secondary form of Alzheimer's caused from even, they're saying certain statins can cause it. But people that have a low cholesterol can end up with this issue. And it's brought on by the cholesterol issue. Now, the other thing, too, is people are getting Alzheimer's from too much or not enough cholesterol. I said cholesterol. What's the other thing I was going to say? I lost my train of thought.
Triglycerides.
Oh, no, sugar.
Sure.
So sugar is causing the inflammation. It's causing the fatty liver. All these things go on, and before you know it, the brain starts sacrificing all the neuroprotective mechanisms that it has because of the cholesterol imbalance and the triglyceride imbalance. So all these sugars are just kind of beating your brain up, so to speak, in layman's terms. So the cholesterol issue and the lipoprotein issue isn't just to your heart and things like that. It's all over your body.
Well, hormones too, doesn't it? Does it help some production of testosterone, everything?
Right. And so it also lipoproteins. Now, if you look at supplements, they're carrying supplements in what's called a liposomal form because it's very absorbable. What they're doing is they're taking the mechanism of, like, let's say they say liposomal curcumin, and they're wrapping the curcumin molecule in a fat molecule. And then you eat it, it bypasses the stomach and goes to the intestines, and it gets much more absorbed than it does if it was just the molecule itself. So there's a lot. I mean, people don't realize how important these lipoproteins are, these phospholipids and cholesterol. I mean, they're super important. And to be taking these statins to just knock them down I think it's just kind of crazy. And there's other side effects to these statins. You get upset stomach, you can get muscle aches, joint pain. I mean, it comes with a whole host of other things too.
Well, if I could, I'm glad you talked about how, because I didn't really know what statins did, but I know, like you just said, it knocks them down. So that being said, I just want to, if we could, I want to work through what you said about the Alzheimer's situation, Parkinson's, all that sort of stuff that's going on from sugar. So basically, let me get this straight. You take in sugar, the sugar inflames, because you and I have both seen it under a microscope. I mean, it looks like shattered glass. I can see it just going through there and just tearing it up. Cholesterol happens. It starts to form. I'm assuming, is that plaque? They call it plaque when the cholesterol starts forming up in the arteries and the veins, like plaque on the walls.
Forming. It's being deposited more because of the sugar and the inflammation.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. But what I mean is, like, as it begins to fill up, let's say you got your artery there, and it's starting, the walls keep getting thicker and thicker with cholesterol because it keeps having to do that. Is that, I'm just asking you, do they call that plaque? Is that where they talk about arterial plaque? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you got your plaque. You got your plaque build up there. So then you go to your doctor, and your doctor's like, "Oh, we got to nuke this evil cholesterol." They will not say a word to you about your diet. No, I'm starting to feel the anger coming. I'm not going to say it, but they'll give you statins. So then the statins are knocking the cholesterol down, which is obviously going to be a problem if it keeps getting thicker and thicker, but it's also knocking the same cholesterol down that helps those dendrites fire messages in there. And then that's where, because of the sugar you're taking in, that's jacking up the veins and the arteries all throughout your body that have the cholesterol buildup. You take the statin to get rid of the cholesterol from the arteries, but it's also getting rid of the stuff in the brain. And like you said, it's going to start without that fat. The transmitters are not working the way they should, and hence you start getting early or statin-induced Parkinson's or Alzheimer's.
I don't know if there's really not a term for that yet, but they're showing that there is a correlation. But the biggest thing is so when you eat all these bad sugars, it also causes diabetes, which is the main reason that people are developing this secondary Alzheimer's and dementia, is from the diabetes. And that is too much sugar, which also turns into a higher cholesterol level, which hurts your arteries. And so I think when you look at diabetes, it's caused from too much sugar, right? Yep. What's high cholesterol caused from too much sugar? So I think the two go hand in hand. So the main reason the brain gets destroyed is because of the diabetes is correlating to a higher risk of, higher blood pressure, higher insulin resistance, and these can damage the blood vessels in the brain. So that's the main reason you have that. And they promote what's called an amyloid plaque, and it impairs the brain metabolism. They're saying that it's labeled type 3 diabetes, and that's the type they call for the newer version of Alzheimer's. And people are getting it from diabetes. But again, I believe, and other people are starting to say, that the cholesterol connection is another big part of that, because it's affecting the amount of phospholipids that are covering the neurons of the brain.
Right.
And so when you look at that, there's a lot more physiology involved, but in layman's terms, it all boils down to one thing, and that's sugar. Sugar is a demon for your body. And everybody that has a cholesterol test should also look at their C-reactive protein, because the C-reactive protein lets us know how much inflammation is not only in your body, but also C-reactive protein is what is elevated after you have a heart attack. So it's very correlative to the heart. So it's really important to know what your C-reactive level is when you get your cholesterol test, because that'll tell you not only do you have high cholesterol, do you have elevated inflammation in the body? And if you do, man, you really got to start deep diving on more blood work to look at your ApoB and other things like that to see, okay, what am I looking at here? Do I have low HDL, high LDO, a high ApoB, which means you have more particles of all these, and you're like, man, what kind of what kind of mess do I have going on in my body? And what's the bottom line of all of it? Sugar.
Well,
Sugar
this is making so much sense now, and maybe this is a little bit of bro science. And I've played with the carnivore diet before, but you've heard of so many people on the carnivore diet talk about their cholesterol got lowered, because you hear every single time anybody that I've ever said, like, maybe you should go carnivore, see what happens. Like, oh, my cholesterol is going to go through the roof, and it's blah blah blah, and it's like, it's the reason the cholesterol is coming down is because it's a carnivore diet is a zero sugar diet. I mean, unless you do like one of those things where you have a handful of berries every day, you're just getting meat. So to see cholesterol levels drop, where you're obviously eating an incredible amount of animal fat. I mean, that's the thing with the carnivore diet is it's like, what is it? 65, 70% fat. I mean, it's something crazy.
Yeah.
But
what's also really a good thing to mention is people always wonder, hey, HDL is the good cholesterol. How do I raise that? You know what the number one way is? Through weightlifting, not cardio, weightlifting. So when you lift heavy weights and you do moderate to low level cardio, that's the best way to elevate your HDL. Yeah. And you want to get your HDL, if you like, mine is about 75, borderline 80, which is really good. And if you get 60 and over, that's good. You don't want to get much over 100, because then they're going to start telling you, oh my gosh, your cholesterol level is high. Well, guess what? It's really high in HDL. But if you have like 150 LDL, then you have 100 HDL, your cholesterol level is going to be 250. They freak out and want to put you on statins if you're over 200. So now you got high HDL, moderate LDL. It looks like your cholesterol is high. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But it's really not that significant, because your HDL is remember, your HDL is the good guy. It's carrying the cholesterol away from your arteries. Just the cleanup crew, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to look at that and say, okay, what am I looking at on my blood work when my doctor's all freaked out? Is my HDL super high? And that's what I always get. My cholesterol is usually like right around like 220, right around there. And guess what? My LDL is like 35, and then my HDL is like 85, 90. So it's going to put me up over 200. Mm-hmm. And doctors are like, oh, look at that. I'm like, look at my HDL, well, it doesn't matter. I'm like, yeah, it does matter, Yep. If your LDL, I don't know, just again, this is my opinion. I have so many friends, our whole lives, our cholesterol's been 225, 250, and they're fine. Now you get to 220, they want to stick you on a statin, which is the dumbest thing you can do. Yeah. They're finding out so many problems from being stuck on a statin that lowering your cholesterol isn't good. I mean, all you got to do is a real quick, Chat GPT or Google search on what's the effects of low cholesterol on the body, and you'll see what comes up. It's not good.
Right.
So, and I mean, if you're exercising regularly, you don't eat a lot of sugar, and you eat pretty good, vegetables, fruits. You don't eat a ton of saturated fats. I know a lot of people are on the carnivore diet, and I know you're a big meat guy, and I used to be too, but there is a certain amount of saturated fats that aren't good for you.
Sure. Well, a lot of it's calories too, I'm sure, because it's so caloric heavy. There's that.
Yeah. But still, that saturated fat. What the problem is with the meats now, Mike, and that's why you want a leaner cut. And if you're gonna get a fatty meat, whatever is in that meat, it's in the fat. Because think about it, when you take a vitamin, let's say a vitamin's, you got a fat soluble vitamin, you got vitamin D, you got vitamin A, vitamin E. If you take too much of those, it's stored in our fat, right? You could screw up your liver, because your liver is the one that processes it. So I want you to think about all the beef you eat. If you're eating a cow and it's full of toxins, It goes to the liver, and then what happens?
And I grab a ribeye, of course, not sirloin. Here I'm
Yeah.
a big fat. No, I mean,
I know.
John, you're
It's
spot
stored
on.
in the fat of the animal. So all the toxins are in the fat of the animal.
Look at cannabis. Let's take a look at cannabis. I've seen this. I'm telling it's no, hear me out. I've seen this happen so much. So many people worried about passing their drug test if they've smoked marijuana. And it's always the guys that are skinny that never test positive because it's the fat guys. And it just, I'm sorry. It's like, people have asked me, it's like, can I do anything for a cleanse? And I'm like, dude, you got a pretty high body fat. What's that got to do with it? That's where it's stored because cannabis is fat soluble, or THC is at least, so what you're saying is it makes absolute perfect sense. So that being said, it's kind of like we've talked about this before on some of the other shows where, people are like, well, this is the stuff I ate when I was a kid. What's wrong? Give it to my kids now. What you talked about earlier is it's not the same sugar that they put in there when they're using high fructose corn syrup and all these things that have been modified from the breakfast cereal that we were eating in like the 70s or 80s compared to the stuff that they're making now. It's not the same thing at all. So I guess where I was going with that with the beef is my grandpa being a butcher. I remember I grew up on grass-fed Ohio beef. I mean, that's as organic as it's going to get, right? But when you go down to Kroger or where you're at Ralph's or, your local supermarket and they've got, ribeye on sale for $8.99 a pound, that's not grass-fed, grass-finished. That's just straight up hormone fatty meat.
Right.
So you're right.
Yeah. And, too, there's, like I mentioned earlier, there's something called, everybody will see on their test LDL. Well, there's something called VLDL, which is basically very low density lipoprotein, and VLDL primarily transports triglycerides to your tissues, and LDL transports just cholesterol in general. So both of those numbers are bad. So, I mean, they're the bad cholesterol. So if you want to look at like lowering your numbers, the strategy that you want is you want to have low triglycerides, you want to have low LDL, you want to have high HDL, and you want to have low inflammation. So low inflammation, look at your C-reactive protein. Look at your ApoB to see what kind of particles you have in your LDL. Look at your LDL, your VLDL, and then look at your HDL and your triglycerides. So triglycerides is part of that cholesterol number. But it's really super important to know, right? And so when you're trying to figure out how to take care of these things, there's also another thing you got to do is, now what can we do naturally, right? What are the best ways to naturally lower your cholesterol? And there's something out there called red yeast rice, which we've discussed before, and it has a product in it called monocolin K. Now, what monocolin K is? It's fermented in the rice, and which contains the monocolin K. Now, there's a statin that has monocolin K in it, and it's levastatin, and they have that actual molecule in it that's in red yeast rice. It shows you how powerful these natural products are, that a statin actually utilizes monocolin K, right? I mean, wow, it's crazy, isn't it?
It is.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, before we move on from the HDL, you talk about weightlifting. I just wanted to make a note for any female listeners that would happen to be listening to this. John said you got to lift heavy to get that HDL moving. Lift heavy. I don't know if I told you, John, but I've been training Karina lately, and I'm making her do, some days we're doing 6 reps, like crazy heavy type stuff. She's looking at me all the time. Like, first of all, my body is changing. Cause you know how most women, I know Julia trains hard too, but like Karina was a typical girl that would go to the gym and she would run on the treadmill for a half an hour and then maybe pick up a couple of like 5s or 10s and do some curls and whatever like that. But I mean, now she's losing much more weight as far as her body's transforming through heavier weight. So I didn't realize that also is good for the HDL. So I'm going to make sure she knows that too, because she has been beast mode training.
Yeah. Weightlifting in general, I like heavier weight, but even if they lift moderately and they keep the reps around 15 to failure, you're going to get good results with your HDL either way. Now, for women, especially you girls out there, if you're on a GLP, it's really important that you weightlift, because number one, you got the 3rd generation coming out now, the retatrutide. I said it right this time.
You did great, John. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. So the problem was, when you looked at people that were on GLP-1, is you had what was called the Ozempic face, right? And these people, I mean, they're finding all these good effects from it. Even retatrutide now, they're saying it's really good for longevity.
Oh, it's
And
a metabolic reset is what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. And so what's really important is for women, if as they're losing weight, the bigger women think, I'm losing weight. And they're doing cardio and they're exercising that way. They're doing very minimal weights. But what happens is women, as they get older, especially, will tend to lose bone density. And it's because the hormones get thrown off. So the most important thing for women as they age, especially mid 40s, 50s, they have to lift heavy weights. One of the things I have all my females do, my female clients, it's a staple in all my workouts for them, is I have them do heavy dumbbell sit squats. And the reason I do sit squats is because, number one, it takes pressure off the knees. And most people that I got doing them, it's to help preserve bone and grip strength and obviously leg strength. So with leg strength comes balance. So I have them do these heavy dumbbell sit squats, and I'll have like my one female client's like, I'd say 60 years old, and she uses like 45-pound dumbbells in each hand for a sit squat, up and down, and she's little.
So when you're saying a sit squat, are you saying she's holding the weights and they just sit down on the bench and stand back up?
Yeah. Now you could sit on a bench. I don't like to bring the sit squat, especially in people that are older, down to the parallel level. So in other words, 90 degrees. It's rough on the low back. So what I do is I have them go, and you don't really need to go that deep. People don't realize that. The only reason people keep pointing that out and they say, oh, so you need to go deep like that to utilize the muscle building. It's not true. You can go to like just above it or even a little higher, because what you're stimulating is just basically, when you go lower, you're putting the back at more risk the lower you go, especially for people that are older, because we don't have, when you look at the low back, L4, 5, and right around that area, it gets really jacked up. And that's where it starts to bend a lot. And the bones, the facets start hitting each other. And before you know it, you got, oh, my back's hurting, Well, guess what? We went a little bit too low on that. So I still keep them at about, I'd say a little bit lower than a 45. So it's about a 60-degree squat. I don't go down to 90. I go about 60 degrees. And I have them sit. It takes the weight off and pressure off the knees. And then I have them stand up. And that simulates just getting in and out of a chair, but real heavy weight. All their skeletal system, this axial skeleton, is getting loaded. So it's helping preserve that bone density as well as the hips, which are the two things that go real quick on women once they get older and they don't exercise, they eat bad, is before you know it, the hips, they break a hip, they have back problems. And it's really, really important. All I can say is, if you're a woman and you could pick one exercise to do as you age and do nothing else, it would be heavy dumbbell sit squats, because it'll improve your grip strength, your shoulder strength, because you got to hold up these heavy dumbbells, and it'll improve your leg strength and just your overall well-being, because what happens when we age? Grip goes, leg strength goes, and when leg strength goes, balance goes. It's not the other way around. Yeah, it's not the other way around. People think balance goes when we age. No, it's what's going is your strength. And when you lose strength, you lose your balance. You can't catch yourself. So it's really an inverse relationship on that. So if you keep yourself strong, you're going to have good balance. And women, it's the first thing to go on them is the legs. And guys, a lot of times too, especially if you got back problems, because the nerve impulses are, especially like in certain discs that are affected, if they're putting pressure on certain nerves, it's going to limit the leg strength. I could just tell myself just how much weaker my legs got, not only because of my knees, obviously, but my low back, because I don't know about, you'll find over the years, the bottoms of your feet, they start to get like a little numb in certain places. And that's a big sign, that low back, I know I have a bad L4 and 5. That's where I'm like getting close to where the disc space is really narrowed. And that's why I take it really careful. I don't do anything deep with leg stuff.
And never put weight back for compression of the spine. Like as far as the old days, the squat.
It's just not worth it, man. It's really not.
But girls out there, we do need to let the girls know that no matter what, like John and I are talking about women going heavy. And like I said, Karina will even do some 6 to 8 rep, like super heavy stuff.
Yeah.
She's never going to wake up. Girls, you're never going to wake up like, oh, wow, I went too far. I'm jacked. You do not have enough testosterone in your body unless you're eating like 40 eggs a day and chicken breasts, everything else. You're going to get more tone when you go heavy. Heavy weights does not equate you getting huge. For girls, it's just not going to happen. Now, you do the same thing to a boy that's still producing testosterone. They're going to get big.
Why they get bulkier is because they are putting muscle on, but it isn't the muscle. It's they kept the same level of fat and they haven't lost it.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. That's just it. Yep. But no, good. Wow, that we went off on a little rabbit trail there on the that HDL. But I did not know that about the heavyweight. So that's good news.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you too real quick about like diet wise, because you'll get a lot of people like, well, if you got high cholesterol, you got to have a high plant-based diet because you need the fiber to bind to the cholesterol. And then you got some people who are like, no, the best thing for it is the Mediterranean diet with, good fats like, salmon and oils and all this stuff. So what is your take on plant versus Mediterranean? Wait a second. I'm asking the Turkish guy, what do you think would be better? Going vegan or going Mediterranean?
Oh, you know my answer to that. Mediterranean by far.
Oh yeah. How come?
So here's the way I see it. When you look at a vegan diet, if you look at a true vegan, they don't eat any meat, right? They don't eat any animal products, period. They don't have milk. They don't have butter, anything animal products, which, to me, it's just, number one, it's boring. And you got to have meats in there because, first of all, we have the stomach acid that digests meat in us. We're supposed to eat meat because we have the makeup, we have the physiology to digest meat. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't we eat meat, right? You want to eat what your physiology has. And we have, enzymes in our stomach that just digest meat and proteins. So it's really important that we have that. And inside meats, you have a lot of things that, vegetables don't have. Now, when you look at a true Mediterranean diet, it's predominantly fish and vegetables and some grains and really good fruits and olives and things like that. It's like you said, it's got good fats in it. It's a very well-rounded diet, and it's low in saturated fats. That's the biggest thing with the Mediterranean diet. You don't have many sat fats in it. You got your avocados in that, which is a saturated fat, but it's really a healthier version because it's a fruit. So it doesn't come from an animal. And if it's organically grown, you got a perfect food there, right? Because you don't have any chemicals in it. Like I said before, fat helps, storage and all that junk. Whereas you get a really good like fruit or vegetable that has fats in it, it's solid. So you're getting less chance of toxins when you're eating Mediterranean because you're eating really good fish. Tuna isn't a big part of the Mediterranean diet. It's sardines.
It's salmon, right? Is it salmon?
Salmon, yeah. It's all these really good, healthy fish. So you're getting a lot of that. And whitefish, cod, those are really big on the Mediterranean diet.
Sardines are Mediterranenean diet?
Yeah.
I guess I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm. I eat sardines every day. I think I told you that, right?
Oh, John, I've literally got one of those cabinets we've got out there. The entire top is I probably got 60, 65 cans of sardines. I've just never eaten them though. I stored them up there at first, but like, all right, this is a potential apocalypse scenario. And now I'm like, they don't go bad, do they?
No, you can let them sit in a can for a long time. Just if it gets a bubble in the can, then you don't want to eat it. It means that, it had a leak in it.
Botulism or something.
Yeah, it could have something in there, especially if the can's contracting. That means there's a bacteria growing in there. You don't want it.
Okay. But no, so I'll just go back to the sardines, but like sardines, salmon, these fatty fish. So that fat is not working against us, correct? When we ingest it?
Yeah. And also too, if you're going to eat sardines, make sure you get it with skin and bones because the bones are like cartilage anyways, because it's really good. So one of the things I do as I've gotten older is my diet is hugely geared towards joint health because I don't want to be one of those guys with 2 replaced knees, 2 replaced hips, working on a shoulder next and all that stuff. Luckily, knock on wood, as I have my knees, the only thing bad on my knees are my kneecaps. The joint between my knees is actually pretty decent. And the kneecap is messed up from all the martial arts. You're kicking and extending that leg constantly, and it rears and rubs underneath the bottom surface of the kneecap. Now, I've been really fortunate. I've had 2 catastrophic injuries to my right knee where I've lost a lot of cartilage, and fortunately, none of it that I had left is deteriorated. It's like back to the way it was like 30, 40 years ago. So what they cut out from my bad injury, my worst one was in 97. They cut off a lot of my knee cartilage from a major meniscus rupture, and they couldn't tack it back on because it was like frayed. So they had to literally slice it off. So I was right away put at a disadvantage. And the doctor's like, I hate to tell you this, but it's not going to be good when you get older. Well, just because of the way I eat, I eat and things like that. I eat a lot of type 2 collagen, which is great for your joints. It's chicken collagen, super, super good for your joints, bone broth. I get this collagen, also a beef collagen, which is good for the skin, hair, nails, and also your joints. And start eating that way. And what I do is I take bone broth protein powder and I mix it in with my oatmeal, and I put, stevia in there, and I get the chocolate version, and it's just pure bone broth. Dude, super good for your joints. You combine that with eating a really good vitamin C fruits. Kiwi is one of the best, believe it or not, kiwi, better than oranges. Kiwi fruit, which is, all those are in the Mediterranean diet. Berries, all these things are phenomenal for you. And then you get good vitamin C. You want to get phosphorus. You want to get sulfur, which is in onions and things like that. And you want to have, chondroitin, hyaluronic acid. It has it all in bone broth. And then what I also take is there's something called BioCell cartilage, and it's actually trademarked. It's called BioCell. Get that stuff. It's really good. It really works, and it's patented. And it helps preserve your joints. And I notice when I take it, my little aches and pains go away. Mm-hmm. And there's several brands out there. The one that I use is by Now Nutrition. I like their stuff.
Mm-hmm. That was good. Absolutely. We used to carry it.
Yeah, it's called BioCell. I got off on a tangent again. We're talking about cholesterol. But, it just one thing just always rolls into the other. But going back to cholesterol with the Mediterranean diet, I think it's phenomenal. And the reason I love it is I grew up on it, Could be another reason why my joints are good. I grew up on all that food. My dad's from the Middle East, and, I ate all that stuff. And
it's crazy because, like my dad's side of the family had the Italian influence, and that included a lot of pastas and a lot of sweets and all that. There was always cannolis around and stuff like that. And it's just like, and sure enough, my grandfather, who was not Italian, but adopted quick story. My dad was telling me about, like, when my dad's dad, my grandfather in Ohio, we're talking middle of nowhere, Ohio, married a little Italian girl from Saginaw and showed up. Like, he was talking about how my grandfather thought spaghetti would be like us looking at, like, sushi for the first time if we were from, like, Iowa or something. You just like it was like this foreign crazy food to even eat, because I'm like, what did they eat back then? And it was all just like potatoes, boiled meats. I mean, stuff like that. So to have this, so then, my grandfather, all of a sudden now there's all these pastas and breads and sweets and all the stuff that he never would have had on his just typical Midwest farmer type diet. He had diabetes and actually lost both of his legs just above the knees. My dad struggles with, you were talking about the numbness in the feet. So he's heavier, and his feet, his legs are swollen like that. And it's just, again, this is all sugars I watched it happen. The other side of the family,
the veins and arteries in your legs.
And I remember going to my mom's side of the family where that was always like, I was like, because I wasn't allowed to put sugar on my cereal there. We always had whole foods, and my grandpa had a garden, and we'd go fishing and have fish, this sort of thing. And they're all fine. Not a dent in the fender. So I agree with you when it comes to diet. You're lucky that you grew up with that Mediterranean diet available, because especially, where I'm from in the Midwest, there's not a lot of ethnic influences in food. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that is absolutely, Middle Eastern diets with all that garlic in there and olive oils. And, stuff like
it's funny.
Great.
My dad every day ate the same breakfast. And what he would have is and it was on his plate, and he would arrange it, and he would have feta cheese, Kalamata olives. Mm-hmm. He would have toast. He would have tomatoes, onions, and then he would have like a piece of like meat, unfortunately it was usually cured meat. He loved salami and stuff like that. No, I'm sorry. He'd have eggs too. So it was eggs or salami, one of the two. And he had it all arranged on his plate. So when he got older, and I'm like, what do you want for your birthday? He's like, I don't know, whatever. He goes, I don't care anymore. So I said to him, what can I make him? And so I went to a pottery class with Julia, and I made my dad a red plate, because the Turkish flag is red. And I put a star and crescent on there. It's an Islamic country, and they got the star and crescent. So it's a big part of it. So the front of the plate had a big star and crescent. And then I put a tomato. I drew a tomato. I drew a feta cheese. I drew a couple olives. and I put it all the way around the plate, and I stained it. It turned out really, really nice. Then I wrapped it up and I gave it to him, and he just opened that thing and he looked at it, and I could tell he was like, "Holy shit, this is pretty cool." So I had the Turkish flag, and on the back I put his initials, the year I did it, and I still got the plate. He passed away, but I still got the plate. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
And that's actually a lesson to be learned there is usually the healthiest people tend to eat the same type of foods over and over. It's so the people with cholesterol out there, I mean, if they were going to adopt a lifestyle change, try to get off the drugs, that would be, you'd start obviously kill the sugar and maybe look at a Mediterranean diet.
Yeah. You know what I've been doing a lot lately, Mike? I think we talked about it as I eat a lot of the Bible foods. I'm eating figs now. I ate the Ezekiel bread because it's got all the stuff that was in Ezekiel, and God, hey, make this, item. It's really good for you. And the Israelites put together the spelt and all the stuff and made that bread. It's called Ezekiel bread. And then go ahead.
Don't tell me you're going to start eating locusts, because then I'm going to have to call you John the Baptist.
I am eating honey though. I'm eating. I don't eat it all the time, but I eat that Manuka honey, and I get the
Manuka honey.
Yeah, I get the real high quality. Did I tell you what? So my sister has MS and she's bedridden, so she gets bed sores and stuff. And then I had that infection on my toe, and I had the nail iced off. 6 months, the infection wouldn't go away. And she says to me, "John, you got to get Manuka honey." I go, "What do you mean?" I go, "Buy it from the store. I see it all the time." She goes, "No, you can't use that. You got to use medical grade or pharmaceutical grade. I'll send you one. I use it for my bed sores, and it completely heals them up." Sure enough, man, she sent it to me, and I see it's a medical grade. It's in a little tube like you would get from anything. I'd had all kinds of antibiotics, all kinds of creams from the doctor, soaked my toe all the time. It wasn't getting any better. I put that Manuka honey on for 3 days, and that infection was gone.
Do you remember those doctors that you sat with at the table for the boxing thing? Remember Alexis?
Yeah.
Alexis is general health. David's an anesthesiologist, but she was like, I was telling her same thing. It's like, yeah, Maggie's got a little cut on her. It's starting to get red. She's like, put Manuka honey on it immediately. And I was like, no kidding. So you're absolutely right, John. Yeah, that stuff is.
Don't put one over the counter though. Get them. And you know what, Mike, you should have it on hand just in case. And you could buy it. Look on the internet, but you want to make sure you get a good quality one. Yep. I don't buy stuff like that or supplements from Amazon anymore. I just heard there's a lot of fake stuff going around. And until that can get sorted out, I'm just kind of steering clear of like a lot of the supplements on Amazon. But you could find some offshoot companies that sell the tube of Manuka honey. It might be something good to put in your, what's the word I'm looking for? Your
my prepper.
Yeah, apocalypse kit.
Apocalypse kit, absolutely. No, for sure. Because I just have like the Manuka honey that I got at like Trader Joe's, that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's good. It's funny. My buddy out there in LA, Abbas, he was much like you. I don't know if you remember Pro Fight Nutrition, and his brother was Mo El Musasawi, the guy that was, I think he finished top 10. Yeah. So Abbas. Oh, absolutely. Well, so his brother Abbas is a good friend of mine. He used to show up at Christmas time with like all the baklava and all that kind of stuff too. I'm like, dude, why? Don't do it. But he was one of those guys that knew a lot. And he would always tell me, he's like, get Manuka honey. And he was talking about this. Oh, John, this would have been 2009, probably. Oh, wow. Okay. On about Manuka honey. So yeah, that's Now let me ask you.
So when I take it myself, when I eat it, I'll take it for like, I'll eat one jar and then I'll lay off like however long it took me to finish the jar, which is usually like a little teaspoon I take a day of it, because it's really, if you get a really good grade, it's got a lot of antimicrobial properties in it. And it'll help kill the bad bacteria, but can, also mess up your good bacteria if you're not careful. So I take the one jar and then I wait like another month and then I get another one and take it. And you know what also is good for the gut? Now we're talking about cholesterol and that. A lot of the gut is responsible for that too. You want to have a good, strong, healthy membrane. And they're saying zinc carnosine. You take it on an empty stomach. You take like 40 to 50 milligrams on an empty stomach. And unlike regular zinc, it won't upset your stomach as much. Right. It's like a lot less than if I took 50 milligrams of regular like zinc gluconate or picolinate, I'd be nauseous as hell. But this one, the carnosine, is spelled CARNOSINE. It heals the gut. And honestly, I've been on it for about 2 weeks now. My stomach does feel better. So it might be something you want to think about doing is adding that. And again, that's not like a permanent thing. You do it for a period of time. They say a good solid 2 to 3 weeks. every morning and every evening, like 2 pills, and it really helps the gut. Now, again, like I said,
Well,
you got to be your own advocate. Look into this stuff. Don't just take my word for it.
that's right. We're not doctors. We're not your doctor.
I don't want to get blamed for anything because someone out there does something stupid.
But no, I do want to ask you this though. The last thing, because we got to wrap it up, is we're talking about being sugar Nazis. Makes perfect sense. But then we also talk about how good Manuka honey is for you, and then certain fruits and everything. So I hear someone like myself out there being like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You said no sugar. Now you're saying honey's cool." It's like, is there? Can you kind of explain and quickly navigate the minefield of diet when it comes to what sugars are kind of okay and which ones for sure no?
Yeah. So when you look at sugar, you want to look at, so you have what's called the glycemic index, and you have what's called glycemic load. Now, the glycemic index is how fast that food turns into sugar in your bloodstream. That's really, really important. The other one is called glycemic load. That's how much of that sugar you're throwing into your bloodstream. So if you got something that turns into sugar fast, but you're eating a small amount of it, you have a high glycemic index, but you have a low load. So the two kind of offset each other. So as long as you're eating a small amount of the sugar, you're fine. So like I eat like a little teaspoon. It's even smaller than a tablespoon, right? I eat a teaspoon of Manuka honey. That's nothing. That's like, I think it's like 60 calories. But if you're going to be eating like 400 or 500 calories of like fruits and things like that's not good, because fructose isn't good either. That's metabolized by the liver. People don't realize that. If you look at fructose, which is in a lot of fruit, that too much fructose can cause fatty liver because your liver has to digest that, not insulin.
Well, you guys get the people that are always like, yeah, but it's a natural sugar. And I'm like, hey, poison ivy's natural too. How's that working out?
Yeah. And so is arsenic.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, John, I hope we cleared up some cholesterol questions people might have, because I know I certainly had a bunch, and I certainly feel better about my knowledge now moving forward when people are asking me like, hey, I got like a really high LDL. I'm like, all right, what's your HDL? So
and
learned a lot from this, and I appreciate it.
Apoprotein B.
Yep.
ApoB. Yeah,
Okay.
That's the other one you want to make sure you get.
Absolutely. All right, John, feel free.
All right, everybody. Stay faithful, stay free, and I forgot the third one. Faith, freedom, and fitness.
Yeah, fit. That's the one. Fit's the one.
I knew it.
And you did so good saying Red or True Tide earlier, man. You almost made it out without a hitch.